Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Philip from Johannesburg, from the University of Johannesburg. My presentation is called The Resilient Educator. And just out of interest for me, how many people here are educators? Okay, so there's an audience here. I also would like to dedicate this presentation to Gordon Posk. I read his books. No matter how difficult they were to read, I read every page. All of them, even his study guides. And I dedicate this, has really influenced my thinking and also to Ranulph. Okay, so the resilient educator, what might that be? So let me formulate the problem that I've observed. In many educational institutions, there's a rupture or a discontinuity in what it means to have education in a university. What are the outcomes? What should educators be doing? Methods of teaching and learning, such as blended learning, artificial intelligent tutors, anti-disciplinary research, flipped classrooms, they're all challenging the educators. Some new ideas in teaching and learning are simply passing fads, but others become a mainstay in the university, which educators are to absorb and act upon. And these requirements may even make their way into performance appraisals that impact the educator's remuneration. Now you need to use online tools, now you need to do this, and then you tick that box when you do your KPI. In multicultural societies, additional challenges such as dominant discourse, colonial legacies, technological discrimination, highlight the impossibility of an apolitical, value-free approach. Now, if you're wondering what technological discrimination is, this is, it's not a common thing to hear. You know what it is?
I think I know what it is.
What is it?
Go on.
Okay, so what we've experienced is, say you give your students an assignment on a Friday and expect them to go and research over the weekend. There's an assumption that they've got access to the tools, a laptop, the internet, and these things. And I was presenting in a rural university in South Africa, and one of the educators said to me, when he does his open book exams, very few students show up to write them. So then I said to him, well, do the students own their textbooks? And what we find is 5 students, 5 modules. Each student buys a textbook for one module, so that they actually share the textbooks, so that one family doesn't have to buy 5 textbooks. So now you've got 5 students all needing to do an open book assessment from one textbook. So we need to change the assessment methods. So the students can't sit next to each other while they're doing assessments either. So this highlights the apolitical problem. Last year I spoke about the decolonization, so I'm just going to skip that. Methodology is tied to a worldview and its particular knowledge system. Thus, any approach brings with it its respective value system, supporting the assumptions of the approach and how it is implemented, measured, and critiqued. By acknowledging the often hidden epistemological aspects that underlie different methodologies in teaching and learning, an awareness arises that resilience and ethics should be included in this conversation. And I've been battling with this, and I was really happy to see the conference on the topic of resilience. So I actually thank you for organizing a conference on this topic. With changes in tertiary education and the different trends all vying for their adoption, educators face many junctions that require their action or inaction. And this often entails a critical personal reflection. There's so many options for educators. Now, this is my personal reflection, so I'm going to share with you my thought process. When I became aware that the design of a curriculum is a form of communication with the learner, a shift in my thinking and acting took place. So it was like a light bulb moment. So there, I really had that moment. I became aware that I was entering a conversation with the learner and that my design set out a restricted conversation. Now, many of you might be thinking, well, in your classes you have open conversations, students may discuss anything they want. But what I realized is that my conversations were open, but my curriculum was not open. The students were not informing the curriculum. So the students were actually not reflected within their curriculum. Thus, I was creating curricula in a vacuum, in a sort of behaviorist approach, making assumptions about what the learner's goals might be. So I'm in a vacuum. Okay, that's not me. I don't have that much hair. And the students are over there, and I'm over here creating a curriculum, which didn't make any sense, especially considering PASC says learning begins with the students' aims or outcomes, but I'm over here and the students are over there. So I realized that there was no equality in my curriculum design, and it was hierarchical, and it should have been heterarchical. So it was like I was taking the role of a biologist who's conducting an experiment on animals in a lab, viewing my objects of observation as external and independent from me. Now, yeah. So there you can see there's a person in a lab coat, you've got some mice running around here, and there's the food. So this is how I've labeled it. Those are the students, there's the curriculum, and the students can eat the curriculum. And you can see that it's in a container. There are boundaries. This curriculum is closed. And I'm independent from it, so this was a problem for me. So I asked myself, what is my role in the classroom? Okay, to provide information, sure. So then am I a book? So I have the information, but where is the teacher? To direct the students to the correct information. Yes, of course. But then am I a search engine? Obviously we need to tell students what to study and where to find the information. But again, I didn't think that's a teacher. To provide the students with guidelines on how the module works and tests, etc. Of course, because I'm the representative of the university in terms of the students. So there's my study guide and the venues, the module, how the assessment will be undertaken, consultation times, etc. But where's the teacher? So the role of the educator has changed. ICT in the classroom, blended learning, artificial intelligence tutors, YouTube tutorials, etc. And I'm not against YouTube. I've got a very busy channel. I've got 4,000 views a day. But where, what is the role of the teacher? And has it changed? And I ask, has the role of the teacher actually changed? And I think it has not changed at all. No. So what separates me, the teacher, from the study guide, the internet, and books? Well, this led me to a question. Why is a teacher needed in the first place? And I came up with this immediacy, which is Carl Rogers' useful term. Carl Rogers, for those of you who are not familiar with him, you could consider him the father of the humanistic movement in counseling psychology. And he thought that breaking away from the psychodynamic approach, where he felt that it's person to person equals in the counseling process. And the definition of immediacy is the here and now of a human who can adapt according to the other, often allowing for excitement. And that's very important to me, the fun. If there's no fun in the classroom, then what's the point? So Rogers felt that when a person feels like they are truly heard, and not truly in the sense that they have access to the inner thoughts, but that they believe that the other person has a good understanding of where they're at, then a change in that person's thinking can take place. So that's the equality in the conversations. And it's this adaptation and elasticity in human conversation that allows for immediacy. And I'll just tell you a story about Carl Rogers. I don't know, I read his book, Way of Being, more than 10 years ago. And he had a neighbor, and I think his neighbor collected a post for him or something like that. I can't remember the exact lead up to the story. But he went to his neighbor's house and he collected his post or whatever, package or whatever. And he saw his neighbor wasn't quite right. And he said to him, are you all right? Are you all right? And he goes, no, I'm fine, just had a bad day. Are you sure? No, I'm fine. So Rogers left, he went home, And then he was sitting there and he thought, I don't think he's okay. So he decided to go back, knock on the door. Neighbor opened the door, and Roger said, can I come into your house? And he went into his kitchen, and he saw his neighbor was writing a suicide note. He was about to kill himself. So Rogers describes this as an intuitive thing. And up till now, AI doesn't have that. And this is one of the reasons why we still need teachers, because they can adapt based on their past experience in the here and now. So it's this adaptation which allows for the immediacy, and I propose that it works the other way for the teacher as well. But one of the reasons why I'm still a teacher is when I'm working with students, when I see that I'm making an impact into a student's life, I also have an immediacy. So it's a reverse as well. Okay, so what has this got to do with resilience then? Well, how many educators have clicked over to the automatic mode when presenting their classes? I've done this. I've taught an entire class and then walked out and what just happened? You go into that automatic mode. And why would I expect anything else? Because it's the same content, same outcomes from the study guide, and it's actually boring. It's actually really boring. Right, so does anybody not know what this is? All right. Now, this is a trilogy movie. That is Po. He is the Kung Fu Panda. And there's his master, Shifu, is some sort of mouse. And Po did not know that he actually was going to be this Kung Fu master. And he's like a hero because he saved different towns from villains who were trying to attack the innocent people. Now, just humor me for a moment, please.
Sean Spicer.
Right. Hello, I am Po, student of Shifu. I am Shifu, Po's master. Shifu, why do we need teachers? To teach, silly. Well, what does it mean to teach? 5 plus 4 is 9. What is 4 plus 5? 6? No. 8? No. Did teaching take place? Well, maybe the process of teaching was initiated, but the outcome was not achieved. Thus, teaching is intimately linked to learning and understanding. People often say teaching and learning, teaching and learning. But I can learn Japanese letters without having an understanding. So I believe it's teaching, learning, and understanding, unless the learning is meaning for you, understanding as well. So to me, it's the departing knowledge to another in a way that the other can accept the information as new information and synthesize this new information into their own understanding, and most importantly, according to their own world view. So teaching is measured by how much the other person has learned. Yes, otherwise you're simply a transmitter or a presenter. And I want to be a teacher, so you're all writing a test after this. Only joking. Po, if you have 5 noodle soups and you have another 4 noodle soups, how many noodle soups have you got? Now in the movie, Po loves food. I don't know if you can recall that. I mean, he's actually holding chopsticks and there's some sort of noodle ball there. That's easy. I have 9 noodle soups. See, what Shifu was trying to do was contextualize the content so that Po could understand. Po loves noodle soup and food. And in the movie, he was always counting food portions and dishing up for his father, who happened to be some sort of duck. Anyway. So if teaching depends on the other person's knowledge, how does the teacher determine they have had a teachable moment? When the other person or the student has had an opportunity to demonstrate the new understanding. Teach back. The teacher has proof of learning. So teacher and student are actually connected, for each requires the other for the activity of teaching and learning to take place. Yes, 100% correct. Oh, now I understand why you argue for heterarchy and not hierarchy, as both the teacher and the learner make up the learning system. So it's crazy to think that students are less than in the education system, because the educator is measured by the new skill of the teacher. And teachers only have jobs if there are students who need to be or want to be taught. Okay, now I really understand why you use the term heterarchy and not hierarchy, as both teacher and student are required. Wow, you're really a good teacher, Shifu. Why, thank you, you're really a good learner. Hang on. If there's heterarchy, there's no leader in the classroom. Isn't that chaos? I never said there was no leader. Heterarchy does not mean leaderless. Can a group of people agree to elect a leader? Yes, this happens all the time. Well, since the educator actually cares about the student's learning and is the specialist in the field of knowledge, then the teacher takes that role and the students actually allow it. But does this really happen? Do students want the teacher to take that role? Well, how many students sitting in your class want to remove you, take your job? Not in my classes. They want to get their qualification and move on. So there's no risk of a coup there. You see, just because you offer someone the leadership role does not mean they want it. Well, why offer it in the first place? Good question. I offer it for my own moderating experience. By offering it, I remind myself that without the students' cooperation, I'm simply a person with information. Only when the students agree to trust that I have their best interests at heart do they engage in the class, Gordon Post. So you're saying there's a trust issue? Yes, of course. Would you let anybody be your leader? No. Besides, it's more about immediacy, being in the moment with the students. Okay, fine. Can you please get to the point of your presentation now about curriculum design? I'm hungry for noodle soup already. Poe, have you heard of tabula rasa? Yes, it means stupid person. Well, actually it means blank slate, but I can agree that thinking a person who is a blank slate is like thinking they have no knowledge. Students are definitely not blank slates. I use the term nunatak to describe a person who has knowledge, but not enough knowledge in the field they wish to master. What? Nunatak? Do you want to see a picture? Do I have to? Ooh, yum, noodle soup. Okay, now that I have your attention, Poe. That is a nunatak. Now, a nunatak is a word that describes an outcrop or jutting out of a plain, often used as a landmark or reference point in glaciers. They are the only place where plant life can survive, which is an excellent metaphor for learning. You'll see now why. Now, this may look like a blank slate, but just like the Titanic was sunk because they thought there was nothing underneath or whatever the story was, underneath here is a huge formation, and that's the student's worldview. So, epistemology, yeah. Depends who you're presenting to.
I understand.
So, the curriculum topics, the aim is to, you know, you catch a horse, you put it onto the students' nunataks, and then we have information flowing both ways. because students add to the curriculum and the curriculum adds to the students. And options are generated. And this is through conversational teaching and learning. Now, what you're seeing here is some electronics. Now, my background is I'm an electrical engineer. So we've got PN junctions here, some semiconductors, transistors, MOSFETs, Thomas, relax.
Rectifiers.
Yeah, good. Now, this junction is destroyed by 4 things. Electronics are destroyed by 4 things: heat, water, radiation, and vibration. Heat, when too much current flows, destroys the PN junction, and water, well, short circuits, and radiation is a bit more complicated. Vibration, the soldering, and that comes off. Okay. Shifu, let me demonstrate a noon attack. I love noodle soup. If I cook it for too long, I burn it and it's destroyed. Too much heat. If I add too much water, it's watery and tasteless. Ah. If there is vibration or an earthquake, it falls on the floor and the soup's constituency is destroyed. I don't know what radiation is, but I think I understood 3 out of 4. Am I right, Shifu? Good, Po. You managed to understand that excessive water, heat, vibration, destroy electronics, and you made sense of this from your already present knowledge of noodle soup. Thanks, guys. Now, you may be thinking this is a fairy tale, but I teach engineering in a university which is in the top 100 of new universities. And in the 3rd year, I asked my students, what is the difference between voltage and current? Now that's a fundamental. They've been working with voltage and current. They can do Kirchhoff equations 3 pages long, but they don't know the difference. So then when I explained it in terms of water flow and pressure, and they've seen water, everybody's experienced water, so then there's an understanding that light bulb takes place. So Gordon Parr says that you can explain mechanics in terms of electronics and electrical engineering in terms of mechanics. So I'm then trying to deal with this problem of boredom in the classroom. Now, Ranulph said to me that just because you may think you're intelligent, you have to allow that attribute to be possible in the other person. And anyway, it's in the between. So if I think I am bored, then I need to allow the fact that the students are bored too. And what's ethical about having boring classes? So what now? All right, this is basically the end of my presentation. I tried to open the curriculum to my students. This was just a week ago. I said to my students, what assessment form do you want? Assignment they chose. And I said, right, come up with topics. And the expression is like, what? We? They're so used to being the receivers of and not the co-creators. So after 10 minutes of confusing facial expressions and, oh, is this some sort of joke? The students came up with these topics that they wanted to study in the subject of networking engineering. Hacking, dark web, wearables, cryptocurrency, and data security, of which cryptocurrency and data security happen to be in my advanced class. So these students really had good ideas. I didn't need to come up with anything. And also, I'm not that familiar with the dark web, so it gives me an opportunity to learn and how to buy weapons and things like that too. So I asked myself, do I want to be a teacher? And can I sustain in this profession? So here is my resilient teacher. Equality, I've explained. Reflection in community. There's no point me thinking I'm something without the feedback of the students to see how I'm coming across to them so I can redirect my teaching approach. Openness and adaptation. I need to be open to what the students want to have in their curriculum and their feedback, and I thus need to adapt. Beliefs and values, I called it the ethical resilience because it still has to be in alignment with my beliefs and values. Energy, it's obvious. I feel like resilience requires energy. It's the energy to get up and offer the class again, or the night class, whatever it is. And enjoyment, reward, yes, obviously I get paid. I do enjoy the class. Trust and hope. This is a major problem in South African universities at the moment. Students are very distrusting of the system, and the system is very distrusting of students. In fact, I was doing a keynote in university where the students had no idea who I was or who was in the room. They came and they said, it's meeting adjourned, take a day off, we're closing the university. These are the challenges we're having, and the reason is nothing to do with us. It's the funding never came in, and the students couldn't buy textbooks. So these are logistical problems. So we have to have trust and hope. Otherwise, for me, there's no point in having the energy to be resilient to carry on the teaching. And I've left this one open because just around that corner, there might be something else. So I thank you for listening, and if you've got any comments, reflections, or noodle soup, I'm happy to be a part of that. Thank you.